everyone. Time for round four of the recap. I saw my pairing, and it was the guy that was sitting right next to me, which you could probably see in the thumbnail of the last video. And, uh, normally I'm like, okay, 1542. Like, this should be, all things considered, I'm definitely not a 1500. This should be, all things considered, a pretty easy game. Until I realized the fact that he had also crushed an 1800 in our last round. So I'm like, okay, well, this certainly adds a new level of like, well, you have two underrated people. I have known nothing about him, never seen him before, and so I was just like, okay, going in this blind, and gonna see what we can do. So we get e4, c5, open Sicilian. I was actually quite happy to see this. I get a chance to play at Najdorf, which is with a6. It's the most aggressive Sicilian variant. It's definitely my favorite by far. And he goes g3. So, for all context, the main responses, there's a lot of them. You have like bishop here, here, bishop here, this, even like a4, h4, like queen here, pawn here. Like, there's so many responses, but g3 I have faced once in my life, and I've maybe studied for about 10 minutes. And he actually went and told me after the game, which I thought was fascinating. He's like, yeah, no. So he was like, you seem pretty confident in this line because you were moving fast. And he said that he played a lot because it took Najdorf players like me out of our comfort zone because it turns it into a very slow positional game instead of a tactical game like the one previously, which is tactics just sacrificing a lot more dynamic play. He's like, okay, well, we're going to play this, and, it's going to, in my opinion, slow, boring, but, we'll see if I can just showcase this side of me playing. So I go the traditional Najdorf response, which is e5, knight back, and we get all of our pieces developed, out of theory now. And he goes g4 for the first thing of the game. So he actually, even though this was his pet opening, was the first one to leave theory. And I think this is an intelligent move. I realized pretty quickly that he wants to like put a knight here. I always thought that he was going to be playing for this. So this definitely surprised me. And like I've pretty like visibly remember sitting there and going like, huh, it's not bad. It definitely caught me off guard. Actually, I'd like to pull up the game and we can see how long I ended up thinking about this game. Because I know it was far from like here we are. So I spent about 5 minutes. So like I wasn't, entirely out of my comfort zone, but I was definitely surprised. So I go h6 because, don't want him playing here. The computer tries to say like it was bad, but at the end of the day, it's not that crazy. He develops a bishop. I go b5, looking to push, and he goes with the idea that I previously thought that he was going to go with, which is just the most logical plan. Put a knight on f5 and claim some sort of advantage. So I wasn't really having any of that. I'm like, all right, you want to maneuver your knight? Well, I'm going to go plant my knight on c4, and you tell me what's going to happen. He puts his knight there, and let's see. So, knight f5. So, he spends almost 8 minutes on this move. And then I proceed to spend 12 back because I knew that it didn't feel the most accurate. It felt good, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel the most accurate because I thought that it was a bit rushed, and it didn't really address with my knight going to c4. So I spent about 12 minutes going knight c4 because I figure, you know what, we can have a little trade of our dark squared bishops. I just wasn't super comfortable about taking it. So that's why I spent so long, because I was calculating the merits of taking it and, seeing what could result from that, which I'll explore further. He puts his bishop back, looking to go here, keeping his bishop on the powerful file. Maybe gonna reroute it to a bit more useful of a square. So now I take, and it was hard for me to like take because without going rook c8 first. I remember I visibly was spending a lot of time between debating between this and this, but at some point I figured whatever. So what I was nervous about is after takes, and I go rook c8. I thought that he had bishop b7. I didn't go one step further with my calculation. I just thought that was really annoying, so I crossed out the move. Like I knew my rook wanted to be on c8, but it just seemed really annoying, and I completely discounted the fact that after like let's say my rook moves and his bishop takes, his bishop will become trapped on the edge of the board. But I thought, okay, well, he has a monster of a bishop. We're going to go here and here. Computer gives a mistake, but I'd probably give it an accuracy. He offers a knight trade. I take. Don't really have a choice. Bishop takes, and I go with my idea, my plan to get my rook on c7. Again, I'm just coming up with these short little plans. And now I'm going to try to kick his bishop out, which we will see demonstrated. Do a rook there. Knight b6. Bishop b3. So the computer says it's fine. The computer's like, oh, it's justifiable. But to me, this move felt like a big mistake. Definitely, like, biggest mistake of the game. Like, this just did not feel right. And because you got to think about it, right? He has this beautiful a8 to h1 diagonal, and he's just abandoning that to go live in the corner when I can just trap him in there. So I was like, yeah, no, that's a terrible move. So I go bishop f6 first. Looking to push here and keep this guarded. Simple. He attacks my knight. I move. Takes. Obviously, rook takes, because if I were to take with a pawn, he would skewer me. He goes c3, and I go d5. I believe at a higher depth, the computer gives d5 a great move because my pawns arrive very fast. And although he talked over the game, he's like, okay, well, I didn't realize he could play d5 this quickly, but to me it seemed obvious that I would just start pushing. So he goes queen e2, d4, and now it gets tactical. So he pins my pawn to my queen. I go after his pawns. Takes. Very creative move. And here I actually did miss the chance for a brilliant move, which would be d takes e3. And this move is brilliant because after, let's say, rook takes, check here, this pawn's going to be covered, but in the moment I considered it. I definitely put a few minutes into considering it, but I rejected the idea because I figured I'm in a winning endgame already, and I would rather keep things as simple as I possibly can. So I retreat. Computer gives a mistake because it says that I have to sack the rook. Regardless, though, he offers queen trade. He did not blunder a bishop. Takes. Bishop takes. I get a very active rook. He goes here, and I feel really dumb for what I did because I spent a while here. But I was like, okay, well, obviously the best move is just to go here. But then I was like, the rook moves, and then what? Like, I didn't see future plans. Like, if he goes after this, it's like, then what? Maybe I have, like, here, but I didn't like it. And so I came up with this idea, which is creative. I wanted to give my bishop to b6. That's really it. I thought it would give me some more merit. I'd rather be able to guard the pawn with the bishop than have to tie down my rooks to it. So he pushes. I move back. Takes. Apparently I go there. Whatever. Rook check. King moves. Here. I complete plan. Takes. Pushes. I move back. King here. King here. And he plays this move, and then we get into an endgame, which was definitely hard for me to figure out. Because let's see on here. After rook e1, he had 19 minutes on his clock, and I had 52. So I was speed running this game. I was feeling good about it though, because I knew I was winning. So I go bishop b8, rook e4, and I guard it. Apparently I had to play actively, and then after something like rook here, keeping everything guarded, rook takes. What do I actually have here? I had rook d6. I force a rook trade. I'm not experienced enough in endgames to know that. Actually, I spoiled it. Regardless, we do some shuffling. Pawns get traded off. More pawns get traded off. And in this position, I offered him a draw, and he accepted. At this point, I was like 9 o'clock at night, and so I was glad to have the chance to go home early. But this is definitely disappointing because, I mean, as you've seen, like I had my chances further in the game. Like if I actually turn this on, like I definitely was. Feeling pretty good, but there wasn't ever like a decisive moment. Like it was just not playing perfect end game. But I mean, sometimes that happens. Like I'm proud of how I played. I did the best I could considering I was tired after 3 rounds in one day. So yeah, so I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go home, back to the hotel, and because this is day 2 of the tournament, I'm like, I'm gonna go into the final day feeling good, feeling refreshed, and I'm gonna try to finish strong. And so, see how I did.